Welcome to another episode of Daddy Daughter Dishes. I am Kiara and I'm here with my co-host,
BJ Nelson. That's me.
who is my daddy. I am the daughter, he is the daddy.
I'm the daddy. Out of pappy.
As the pappy.
Out of pappy. That's my baby boss.
We are the hosts of Daddy Daughter Dishes. If you're new here, we have pretty candid conversations, just talking about life, growth, love, and whatever else comes to topic while we chatting. So
that's the best part of it right there.
Best part. Today this episode is the third episode. This will be the third episode. Yeah. So we are
the third official episode.
Yeah, we not even new no more. We old news, but we still relevant.
And don't forget, we international in this month.
We are international.
We are international.
So let's kick it off, Dad. Mental health check. How are you doing? How's your week been so far?
Let's see. I just came off of that trip that we alluded to in the last episode. So me and a few other people went to a nice, beautiful cabin in North Georgia, in the North Georgia mountains. And when I tell you it was so peaceful and relaxing, it was just fantastic. Like, yeah, I'm feeling really, really refreshed this work week so far. I was off Monday, not for President's Day, because, when we talked about that too last time, we don't get those kind of holidays working out on the right of way. So we have to take what we want. But yeah, I'm feeling really, really well. Ready to get this. I've been excited about doing another episode. I was on you about let's go weekly. I'm just ready. I get so amped up when I think about doing this podcast with you because I'm having so much fun doing it.
I know, right? He ready to talk y'all ear off, y'all. If y'all want weekly episodes, we will deliver weekly episodes. Hey. I'm more than open to delivering weekly episodes.
Yeah, so, but you talk to me, you said, hold your mule, player. Hold your mule. We gonna ease into it. We gotta see if that's what the people want first. Mm-hmm. So, if you got any opinions, if you got my number, you got her number, hit us up on the comments or something. Just say, hey, yeah, y'all go weekly. We want more. So, and we strive to give the people what they want.
Yes, indeed.
But yes, we will. I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. So I actually had a really good moment today that made my day a really good day. When you have just an average day, but then you have a moment that's like, oh, I'm like, that really was the highlight of my day.
Put you over the top, huh?
I made a friend at work.
You made a friend at work?
Yeah, it's a lady. It's a girl. Did I tell you the lunchbox story?
No.
Okay, so
if you did, I don't remember. I'm getting a little old now. You might have told me, and I might be done forgot. So
let me inform the audience. I don't think I did because I think I only told a few people. So at work, I took my lunch to work one day, and I keep a snack in there too. So I snack around 2 or 3 o'clock. So around 2 or 3 o'clock, I went to the fridge to get to the work fridge to get my lunchbox. Lunchbox gone.
Uh-oh. What in Sam Hill?
So I'm like, okay. I went to my car. I went to my desk. I went to my coworker's desk. I was like, where did I put my lunchbox? And she was like, you put it back in the fridge because you got some stuff in there. I was like, I thought so, right? So somebody was like, maybe you left it at home. And I was like, I ate lunch from my lunchbox today. So no, I did not leave it at home. And so I was like, okay. I've heard that we sometimes have lunch bandits. So maybe I have just fallen victim to the lunch bandit scandal. I was going to be okay with that. I was like, I'm going to give them 3 days before I say anything. Because I was like, if somebody did take it, it was probably purely accident. They'll return it. Right. Next day comes, no lunchbox.
No lunchbox.
I'm like, okay, all right. Lunchbox bandit, where you at? Swiper. Day after that, I'm getting on the elevator. This girl gets on the elevator with me, and so she got on after me, so she's standing in front of me. And I'm looking down, and I
And you
see
see your
my
lunchbox?
lunchbox. I ain't say nothing else, so I'm looking down because it's a regular lunchbox. It's like just gray.
Right.
It's just standard. So I ain't say nothing, but I did go sit in the kitchen where I could see the refrigerator, straight beeline for the fridge.
Right.
So I'm sitting there.
You investigate now. CSI.
Because I'm trying to see if this abandoned or is this an accident.
CSI North Carolina.
Yes. So, Law and Order aligned. So I'm sitting there and I see her. First of all, she's dressed awesomely. Like, I complimented her outfit while we were on the elevator. And that's when I looked down and I was like,
this heifer.
I think that's my lunchbox. So look, she runs towards the fridge and I see her put in like a Post-it note on the lunchbox.
She's trying to cover her tracks.
And I screamed from the other side. I said, hey, is that your lunchbox? And she was like, no. And I was like, it's mine. And she was like, I am so sorry. And I was like, girl, it's all good. Especially once I saw she was black. I was like, don't even worry about it. Happens to the best of us. And so she was apologizing. She was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I have the same lunchbox. I was like, it's all good. So that was about a month or two ago. So today we ended up sitting and just talking for 45 minutes. We more like an hour. We put time on each other's calendars because let's face it, I stalked her LinkedIn. Not stalked, I investigated her LinkedIn because I'd seen her before. And so I was like, oh, we do like the same stuff. Like, she does employee branding. I do branding with the marketing team. And on the side, she had like a event equipment rental business with a bounce house, and I do the photo booth. And so I was like,
shout out to Lensational.
Shout out to Lensational. We're going to have some episodes sponsored by Lensational. So I get to stalk and my wheels get to turn. I'm like, oh my gosh, we are very similar. Like, we need to hang out. And, it's hard to make friends as adults. So I pinged her and I was like, hey, girl.
Hey, girl. Hey, girl.
Hey, girl. So you want to do lunch sometime? And she's like, oh my God, yes. I'll put some time on your calendar. So fast forward to today. We had just the best conversation. Like, when you start talking to somebody and you just click and you're like, man, this is good. This isn't forced. It's not awkward.
Right.
So I was really nervous going into the meeting with her because I was like, this is somebody that I actually really want to be friends with. So I don't want to be too weird or show too much of myself. But I ended up doing that anyways.
Hey.
But she loved it. So we talked, we had very similar interests, very similar vibes. You could just tell. And she's very open to just, pursuing this friendship with me. And
it's
I was
organic.
I was like, are we friends? I was like, now we have a cool origin story to tell people. Like,
you stole my damn lunchbox.
Went from bandit to bestie. But nah, so that was cool. Shout out to Brittany. I know she's listening.
How you doing?
She just told me about the podcast. She just saw something about the podcast, so she was telling me she's a daddy's girl. So all that to say, I had a good day because of that moment. I was really tired, but that moment really was a highlight of my day. And
that's
outside
great.
of that, like, I've had a pretty chill week. Can't complain. I can't recall anything too special I did, so I must just be chilling.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was, thinking about, outside of the trip. The trip was amazing. Monday I was so tired, drove back. We had a late night Sunday night, got up, checked out of the cabin, and I drove from where we were to Memphis because Pud and Kim rode with us. And I was exhausted. Took a nap, woke up way later than I was expecting to, because I had to get back to work Tuesday. And I ended up being late to work yesterday, and they was giving me a hard time, but I told them, shit, I was tired. So it is what it is. So outside of that, There ain't been a whole lot going on since the last episode, I don't think. We talked about Mom's birthday. We talked about Valentine's Day. Um, yeah, I did get some Sherry's berries though. Like I
Were they
said,
good?
they were
Were they delicious?
delicious.
You tell her you shouted her out on the podcast.
Who, Sherry's berries?
Yeah.
No.
Is it like a brand? It's not like a small
Yeah.
business.
You ain't never had no Sherry's berries, man. Girl.
If I have, I don't recognize the name. I might look it up and see it.
You have to look it up. They
Look,
were
Sherry
delicious.
Berries, wherever you at.
Sherry's berries. She's all over. She's international too.
She's international, just like this podcast. We have something in common. Sponsor us.
And I shouldn't say she's delicious, but the strawberries are delicious.
Yeah, don't say that, dude.
Moving on.
Yeah, so moving on. Last week, was that last week? Where we talked about, well, not last week, last episode or the episode before that, you shared pretty much like some things about like how Pinky communicated with you all as siblings when it came to her sickness, and how a lot of families don't have those conversations. So I thought it would be kind of cool to follow up on that and kind of just talk about like hard conversations that we've had in life, either together or personally, or like just how you navigate tough conversations, and like why they're important, because they are the hardest thing to do, but afterwards they feel amazing.
And it's funny you bring this topic up, because I can definitely tell you how I used to move when a hard conversation had to take place. And it's something that when I read this in the book, Daring Greatly, it said men have a tendency to do two things when they're not equipped to have hard conversations. One is act out in anger, and two is to shut down completely.
You did
and
the
latter. I
latter.
know I'm not really an anger. I don't think I am.
Nah,
like I'm not an angry person.
Frustration, but not you ain't punching holes in walls.
I have had a tendency to just shut down completely, or I would play the conversation out in my head. Have the whole conversation going on and not even entertain it, because I already know what's going to happen, what's going to be said. And that was not very healthy. That's not a very healthy way of doing things. What I've learned.
That is not healthy.
No, at all. And we all know when you have to have a tough conversation with somebody, it brings up anxiety in you. You get nervous, you get sweaty, because you just be you be foreshadowing what's going to happen or what's going to be said. You think, if they say this, then I'm going to say this.
Then what I'm going to say back.
Right. If they react like this, then what I'm going to do, and blah, blah, this. And we all have done that, I'm sure. I know I have.
I absolutely have. I do it a lot. I have to talk myself out of it sometimes.
Yeah, but the way I've learned through therapy and engaging with other people is like, the best thing you can do is to have that conversation head on. Right. Because like you just said, like it's difficult, it's challenging to get it, to do it. But once, it's like those wildebeest when they making that great migration, they get to that river with all them damn alligators waiting to eat them. They just waiting on that first one to go. And once that one goes, they like, I don't give a damn if I get eaten or not. I'm going. Like, it's time to move. So it's just like those conversations, once you take that step and just start it, if the other person is engaging you in the same manner, reciprocating that energy, and y'all having that conversation, you feel so much better after the conversation is done. And you look, and when the crazy part for me is when you look back and you're like, why in the hell was I hesitant on even doing that in the first place? It was challenging, but it wasn't that difficult. Like, it's just be amazing on how you can look back and be like, that wasn't that difficult.
That was such a small thing to be overworked about. Yeah, those conversations and knowing that you need to have them can they make me physically ill. Like, I am the type to throw up. I would throw up before. Uh, I have to really motivate myself to have the conversation. Like, if
Mm.
I'm bringing something up, it's probably been on my mind the past week, and I have
Oh,
been processing how I'm going to say it, because my thing is, I'm a very reciprocating conversation kind of person. So if I start bringing something up, and if a face is made, any sort of indication that that person might not be happy with what I'm saying, I shut down. I'm
you
like,
shut
okay,
down.
you don't hear me. When in reality, they might just be, that might be their listening face.
Right.
But because I see it as like an eyebrow raise or just a straight face, like CJ does. He does straight faces, and I'm like,
What is he thinking?
what is he thinking? What is he thinking? I should stop. But I just have to keep pushing through. And one thing I always do when I'm having tough conversations, because most times it's me standing up for myself, really. And so, or vocalizing how I felt about something that I either want to change how that happens in the future, or I just need to let it be known that I wasn't feeling that interaction. So one thing me and CJ have come to do, I'll text him. Like, we could be sitting in the same room, but if the
Mm-hmm.
energy is off and if I'm not feeling it, he'll text me and he'll be like, "Everything okay?" And I'll be like, "No." And so eventually I'll get to a point where I can be vocal and speak about it. But it's just like the entry of
Oh
getting
yeah.
into that conversation, because one, I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want anybody, especially in those conversations, I don't want to ever place blame on anybody. I'm like, this is how I feel. I'm like, I felt like this because you did this. I know that might not have been your intentions, but I really want, when I have those conversations, I have them so that our relationship can progress, not so that I can say, yeah, I told you, like,
Right.
it's never a dominating scenario. It's more just like, I value our relationship, therefore I'm going to tell you this so that we can move forward.
And at the end of the day, when you're having those healthy conversations, you're not just verbally spewing on somebody, blaming them for this or that, or avoiding accountability. Your main goal is basically to get clarity. You're trying to get clarity with that person because, like you said, you value that relationship and you don't want that, whatever is the issue at that time, to impede that relationship's growth. You want to be able to, hey, let's talk about this. Let's get through this moment because if we sit down and we calculate our goods and our goods definitely outweigh our
Outweigh our
bads by
bads.
so much. So let's not allow this one little hiccup to ruin what we feel is something special. So let's dig in, get to the core, get to the point, make each other feel like we're being heard, um, and move forward accordingly. Like it's very simple when you talk about it. But like we both stated, it's very difficult. It has been for us to, at least, and I'm sure it is for others, to engage in those difficult conversations. But
Yeah,
they can be done
absolutely.
and they are necessary.
They need to be had. It's like going to the doctor to get a shot. Like, you don't want to, but after you get it, you're like, that wasn't that bad, and I'm protecting myself for the future. So okay, I'll take it. Give me a band-aid. So what that you kind of talked about how you used to react or have those tough conversations. Is there any sort of situation that stands that you remember most that you like, man, I did not handle that the way I should have? It can be, relationship based, work, what, family, whatever. I know I have quite a few that I'm like, I could have did a little bit better.
Um, there's been, there's been several occasions um, where, like, within my relationship with your mom, I would be coming, well, on the times that I did have a job where I was coming home every day and we needed to have a tough conversation. Like I wouldn't, like I say, I would, most of the times the job site where I show up for work would be at least an hour drive from the house. So by the time I get off work, you wind down a little bit, then you start thinking about stuff as you're driving home.
You done had a
And
whole conversation in
that's
your
what I'm
head.
saying. Exactly.
Oh,
Like
man.
I done
That
had
makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
I done said what I done walked through the door. This is why I'm driving. I done walked through the door, greeted everybody, ate dinner. Now I'm having this conversation with her, like whatever the issue may be. Like and I'm saying what she's gonna say in my head all the way, 45-minute drive. I haven't got all the way through this conversation. By the time I get to the house, it's like, man, I already know. I ain't no need even talking about that. I already know what's being said.
You come ready.
Hey, no, because that's another thing that's messed up about it. If you plan it in your head, it's in your head, so it's going to ultimately play out in your favor. So that's what makes playing it over in your head or playing it out in your head so jacked up. Like you cannot do that. That's not fair. You're not being fair to yourself. You're not being fair to that other person, and you're not being fair. You're not valuing the relationship that you have with that person. So you have to avoid that at all costs. Like you said earlier, if you value that relationship, you have to have those conversations. Yeah, they're essential, and they often provide um, water for that relationship to grow. Like it helps that relationship blossom into something more because a lot of times when you do have that conversation, it leads to something else that's positive or several other things that end up being positive things. And then you just be like, man, just last week we were at that space and we got through that and look where we are now. We got several other things to deal with and that are positive and healthy for us going forward. So yeah, man, it's just a good thing to engage in having those
Yeah.
the tough
It's like
conversations.
a storm, and then the storm brings, water to the flowers and stuff. And then a few weeks later, you're like, oh, look at all these pretty flowers. Where did this come from? That storm we had a few weeks back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's always how I like to think of it because I'm like, now I've gotten to the point where I try not to think so much about the conversation more than the after. So I'm like,
Mm,
where do I want us to be after this? Like,
mm,
and that's when I'm bringing the conversation forward. So we've been speaking from, bringing the conversation to the table. How do you feel when the conversation is served to you on a platter and you are caught either not, maybe probably not caught off guard because chances are if somebody's bringing a tough conversation, you probably can feel the vibes coming. But how you feel when they bring that up and you're like, oh, we talking about this right now?
Hey,
Wait a minute.
what that does, that forces you to fall back a minute. If again, we got to preface this by saying if you value that relationship with that person and you want it to grow, like when somebody brings it to you, or I call it calling you on your shit, you gotta fall back and you gotta be like, hold up, like, damn, did I do that? Am I doing that? Because the first thing instinctively you get defensive. You want
I
to
ain't do
get
that.
defensive. I ain't do that. That wasn't me. Or you could try to come up with some explanation as to why you did what you did. But you have to take a moment. You almost have. I know me. I should say me. I shouldn't talk about what others do. But I have gotten to the point where I try to stop myself, check my emotions. Sometimes step out. Feel like I'm stepping out of my body and just looking at it try to look at it from a different perspective and be like, you know what, there's a lot of validity to what's being said to me. I have to eat that. Sometimes you have to check yourself and be like, man, that's some messed up behavior. And I have to do some things differently going forward. And that's not always easy to do. It's
It's
definitely
not.
it takes some work.
Look, I got you. What you just said just brought like a funny memory, kind of like a tough conversation. It's not super bad, but it's not bad. But me and CJ had went to his sister's party on his sister's birthday parties, and we, of course, were like there were drinks. So me, social drinker I am. I drink, and I'm pretty good with the liquor. Like, well, before I was on my meds, my
Mhm.
antidepressants, I was real good with the liquor. I could be drunk, you wouldn't even know it. But
Lord have mercy.
man, them antidepressants, bruh, made me the lightweight, and I did not know this. Okay, I had an experience where I knew this before, but I thought it had passed. New Year's Eve, I had, not this year, but last year, I had blacked out. Not even like we was here at home. Like me and CJ was just watching TV, and we was having like some Jack and Cokes, and
Ooh,
next thing I know, I was sick. And I'm like, that don't even that
that
ain't,
don't,
whose
something
body
ain't
is
right.
this?
Right.
This ain't my body. I
Right.
had like 2
Who
drinks. Why am I
who is
like
this
this?
person?
Right. Who was you? And so fast forward to the party. I did not get crazy drunk. I was not belligerent, but I was, how we get a little bit louder than everybody else,
Right.
get a little bit, just a little bit where everybody else is, we are just 1 or 2 notches above it. And so that's how I was. And so on the drive home, and I was like, I had a good time. Like, we had a good time. Me and the girls was talking, like, we had a good old time. Me and Kayla, friends, having a good old time. It's like, when we go do this again? So we're driving home. CJ's driving, of course. And he's like, the energy's off. I'm like, I'm in trouble. But I ain't say nothing. So I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, I said, are you mad at me? And he was like, no. But then he was like, but I do want you to like be more mindful of like how much you drink and stuff. And like you said, I got defensive real quick because I was like,
I
I
remember
don't drink
I
that
remember
much.
you telling me about this.
Yeah, because I was texting you at the same time because I'm like, I know I messed up somehow, but I really did not drink that much. So I'm backtracking, trying to figure out why was I appearing like that.
Right.
So after he said, he was like, yeah, he was like, you repeated yourself a few times, like, we hear you after a while, and he was like, you keep saying the same stuff, and I was like, ooh, that do sound like a
Mm,
drunk person. And so
yeah.
I was like, okay, I was like, well, if you think that, then I texted sisters because I was like, I hope I didn't ruin like anything or mess anything up. So I texted him. I was like, hey, if I was doing a little too much, I'm so sorry. And they both was like, no, you weren't doing anything. And Kara was like, I mean, you repeated yourself a few times, but like, that's all good. Cause I kept telling her what gift I wanted to give her. I was like, I wanted to get you this card because it had afros on it and it was cute. But we got you a sunflower instead because you're a sunflower to us. That's what I
Oh,
basically kept
shit.
saying that.
Yeah.
So I just want her to know I had 2 cards in mind for her. And so she was like, you can't repeat yourself, but it's okay. And so after they said I hadn't really disrupted anything, I was like, I was
You
like,
got
well,
sassy, didn't you? Yeah. You got sassy.
I didn't get super sassy, but I was like, okay, what you're saying, that's how you perceived it. But I just asked 2 other people, and they were honest. I was like, if I was being belligerent, I know Kayla would have shut me down first of all because that's them
Right.
sis. But I know Carol would have been like, oh, it's okay. But they were both like, nah, you was straight. Like they've seen me at my bachelorette party. Anyways, fast forward, me and CJ, I was crying because I was like, I'm sorry, I made you mad. I'm sorry. And so we get home, and then the next day, when minds are clear, we end up having a pretty good conversation actually, where it got to the point where I realized, oh, it is my medicine. Like, because I was thinking all night, how much did I drink? I was like, I know I had this, and this, but it was like nothing. It was like the little spritzer things. I'm like, that's nothing. And so I was like, okay, I'm thinking it was probably my medicine, 1. And 2, I was like, you say I repeated myself, but I don't remember repeating myself. So I was like, chances are I was probably trying to be heard. Like I
Right.
probably felt like nobody had said anything the first time, and I wanted to make sure people heard me. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, and that's something I could totally, be more mindful of in the future, because last thing I want is for him to be like, here she go. I gotta babysit her. And so that was a tough conversation that we've had, that was brought to the table to me, where I
Yeah.
was like, and I could have reacted better the first time because he was telling me, and I'm like, why are you acting like we being a buzzkill? You know, in the movies when they like bring the drunk girl out of the club and she's like, "You're ruining my buzz." That was like me, but not belligerent.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that was a conversation to be had. So like even now, like I don't drink as much, but like if we do go somewhere, I am a bit more mindful.
But yeah, yeah, tough conversations, man. I've been engaged in a few here lately, but I'll be perfectly honest with you. I ain't ready to share them with everybody just yet. Uh,
That's all good. You take it and
I
bake it and you deliver it when you're ready.
Yeah, and it's been some different stuff for me because it's things that I'm not used to, but I've never really ever backed away from a challenge. And with my new way of dealing with things, I'm actually starting to use some of these tools in engaging in those conversations. One thing about me, I have realized this when I start talking, like I'm in, like, and I have a tendency to say stuff that um feels like I'm attacking the other person, which is not my intent at all. It's just that when I do make that step, I become passionate about what I'm saying and how I
Yeah.
feel. And like
And
you
you don't
said,
beat around the bush. You're very
no,
direct.
I try to be very direct, so there's no gray area in how the message that I'm putting out there. Like, and sometimes that's hard for others to take. But you know, if I make someone feel like I'm attacking them or I'm using words that don't really apply to them, I don't have an issue going back and and making changes to where they're not feeling that way. Because that's the last thing you want to do when you do engage in these conversations is make somebody feel worse than they probably already do. That's not the
Yep.
intent.
Especially like we keep saying, if you're trying to preserve the relationship for real, like
Right.
because some people do go into those conversations like I'm gonna bring you down, like I'm finna throw all these daggers,
Right.
and they want to leave feeling like they victorious and leave you feeling like
Like
shit.
shit. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, what, you just drug me through the dirt, man, that kind of hurt.
But if they doing that, they don't care. They don't care
Yeah.
how you feel.
Mm-mm.
They're only concerned about how they feel and what.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Absolutely. That's, a theme of tough conversations that I have come to kind of encounter over the past few years is boundaries.
Oh yeah. I know
Those,
about
and
boundaries.
look, I'm sitting here with my book, uh, The Book of Boundaries, Set the Limits That Will Set You Free by Melissa Urban. Me
Okay.
and Kara read this in our book club last year, I think December, but I reread it recently. And one thing that really stood out to me was the fact that she was like, Melissa was like, boundaries are often seen as like a bad thing. You feel like they're bad, but you're only looking out for you. Like when you set these boundaries, you're allowing yourself to have more control over the situation, like you're not allowing people to just be in your bubble, because at the end of the day, it's you.
It's
So
you.
setting boundaries is not you being mean. Setting boundaries is you making space for yourself and also allowing other people to know like how far you are willing to, have them in you, in your space.
Yeah.
And it spoke about like relation, like husband and wife. It spoke friends. It spoke work. It spoke in-laws. It spoke so much to the point where I was like, I needed this. Like this book is so good because I mean, there have been times where I've either left a situation like I probably should have enforced those boundaries a little harder or set them in the first place, because I am a I am a softie for the most part, so I do tend to sometimes get walked all over.
You get that
My
from your daddy.
yeah.
You get that from your daddy. And
I think it's a combination of both sometimes.
and I know, like, you start talking about boundaries, like, it's weird because before I got into on the path of becoming a better version of myself, I didn't know what a boundary was. As far as it pertains to, you protecting you. And when I did start understanding or got introduced to what boundaries were and how to set boundaries and how to do all of that stuff, it made me reflect back onto my upbringing because now I'm in this mode of I'm protecting me. Everything is like centered around me and me being the best version of me, being the best in the best health, mentally, physically, spiritually, all of that. But growing up, we were taught that, when you focus on yourself like that, that's being selfish. And I'll be honest, in the beginning, there was some conflict going on within me. I'm like, man, am I being selfish? Like, and then you just have to keep putting in that work and peeling back layers. And then you realize, you know what? You cannot, that's not being selfish. There are some people out there that are selfish and they have selfish ways. But when you make a concerted effort to set boundaries for yourself and how you're going to, what you're going to allow yourself to do and not do, and then you expand to set boundaries for different relationships because each one of the individual relationships you have with people, they all have your boundaries are different. There are different levels to it. And boy, when you start enforcing those
Hey, setting is
boundaries,
one thing, enforcing is a whole nother. That I'm still like, I'm very raw in that area. I am bad at it. I will say, I'm so bad at it.
I'm not real consistent with it, but I have made some major steps in setting setting them for myself and setting them and enforcing them with other people, like. And when I did that, you notice something happens, like people start falling off. Then you be like, what did I do other than basically
Look
stand
out for
up for
myself.
myself that made
Hmm.
this person now that they don't want to be in, they don't want to engage with me anymore. Like, then they be like, you changed. You be like, I absolutely did. I'm not doing what I used to do anymore. I'm not allowing you to do what I used to allow you to do to me. I'm not allowing that to disrupt my life anymore. Yeah, I have changed and I'm changing for the better, you know? And it's a constant work in progress. And
Yes.
I see why it's called a journey because it's never ending. Journeys never
Never
end.
ending. You think you far, and then you get in a situation, and you're like, man, I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
This is
I think that's the definition of leveling up though. Like when you get to it's just like working out. Like you can work out and get to a certain point, you look in the mirror, you just be like, oh, well, I made a little progress. But then you start working out more and it's like your muscles plateau, I guess is what they call it. That means you gotta step it up a notch. So you gotta level up what you're doing in your workout. And
look,
I
them
think
10 pound weights don't work like they
don't work
used
like
to.
it.
You gotta level
Absolutely.
up to 15 or
Right.
12.5.
So yeah, I think that's the version when you get to that point where when you do look back and you're like, man, that was cool. That's like a stepping stone. So then you look forward and you're like, well, shit, now I got to deal with this. But I could use what I used back there. I'll build on that, and that's gonna help me get to there because I'm gonna learn some more stuff as I go, go through that. So yeah, man, it's an exciting thing to be engaged in for me.
Yeah, and it's so freeing too, because when you set in those boundaries, you're allowing yourself like peace. Like
Yes.
it can be so when I think of boundaries and conversations I've had in the past, for me a lot of times it's overcommitting myself, or like people knowing I'm the go-to, and so everybody's coming to me as their go-to at once, and I'm like, ooh,
Mm.
this is not. I can't. In order for me to perform at my best level, I can't be pouring into everybody at once. Like that's not. it's not gonna work for any of us. And so, like when I go to set those boundaries, because like we keep saying, they're very hard. I'll use one example. Um, so like this is a common one people for listeners might relate to. When you grow up, you become like a teenager and stuff, and your parents, they kind of shift from like parent to like friend almost. Not completely, but there's a more friendly aspect to it as you get older. And so with that sometimes comes like oversharing. And some people, it happens to them when they're younger too. Making them grow up too fast is that they're exposed to a lot of adult situations that they should not, like I shouldn't know that. Like I am 13. I should
Right.
not know what you're talking about right now, but I do. I shouldn't
Right.
have the tea at 13.
Right.
And so that's something that I'm definitely like unpacking in therapy. But one of those boundaries now is like, as a grown up, I still have to maneuver conversations with you and mom where I'm like, okay, this is me speaking to you as your child. And then this is me speaking to you as like, we cool. Like, and a lot of times I sometimes am on this side and I have to direct the conversation like, okay, this is stepping into, a boundary that I've said that we need to pull it back a little bit because this isn't, just because I'm older don't mean I'm ready for this. Like, I don't want to be exposed to this. It's not my business. I should not know this. And so that one is really hard to enforce, especially when, like you said, upbringing, we didn't have clear boundaries. Like, I don't even think like Nelson didn't have boundaries. Like
We had
literally,
no idea what it meant. Like,
the door unlocked. Here come so and so pulling up, and they coming through the door. Ain't no
yeah,
I'm on my way.
no,
Ain't none of that. We having a gathering. All these people pulling up. Hey, what's up? Ain't no, you wasn't invited. None of that. Like, and that's something that I feel delayed in my progress, honestly, because like families have boundaries sometimes. Like
they
when
should
I go to
anyway.
yeah, they should. When I go to CJ parents' house and his uncle comes over, like his mom is always like, "Yeah, Uncle DT finna come over," and like he say for stop by like 30 minutes, and it's like, oh, so we can expect him to come. Like it's little stuff like that where I'm like, Uncle Bob probably would have just opened the door and came in. Like we wouldn't even know he was coming. We might not even be at home, but he gonna try and open that door. And so like I said, I feel kind of delayed in my boundary process. I feel like a kid, like trying to set boundaries. I'm like, is it too late for me? Like, is it too late? But it's never too late.
It's
This
never too
book has
late.
absolutely taught me that it's never too late. What kind of boundaries have you set that were like necessary for you? Whether it's like at work, something that you were like, man, I gotta talk about this. I gotta say something or else it's not gonna change. Like I need this to happen.
So at work, well, I'll go with something at work. We kind of talked about that incident that happened, and after that, um, well, before that, we would have like safety discussions, or there would be an open topic for guys to speak about something safety oriented if they had any suggestions or anything, and I would never engage. Yeah, I would never say anything because I was nervous about sounding stupid or sounding like what I said didn't matter. But after that, I make it a point every time I go to a job and there's a discussion about safety or something. I try to find something every day to speak on that will encourage. You don't necessarily want to come across as you're, especially out here, you don't want to be like ratting nobody out because it's a brotherhood. And at the end of the day, we have to look out for each other. And that's one of them things that everybody don't look like me working in this field. I mean, I've been out doing this for almost 15 years and I probably can count on both of my hands how many guys I've actually seen that look like me, let alone work with. Like me and Jamel was talking about this last week. I think like this is the first time that I've been on a crew with another black dude. Like me and him been rolling for the last 2 years together, and it's been pretty awesome. But back to I made it a point. I don't know if that's really setting a boundary or if it's just making a point to speak up when something needs to be said, especially when it comes to safety. Because
Yeah,
out here, if if you don't say something when something don't look right, that could mean somebody's life. So we make it a point to try to speak up on things like that. I guess my boundary is to do away with the silence. There's no silence. I'm gonna speak up.
that's a personal boundary. So that's a good
Yeah.
one. That's you said work. I after I read this book, one of my things, I was like, I'm gonna put it to the test. I don't know how yet, but I'm gonna do it. And sure enough, a work situation comes around where um I have a lot of projects on my plate, and I am given or I'm asked to take over like 3 more projects. And I'm like, I know I can't. I'm like, I can do this, but it's gonna be really straining mentally. And so I literally now, this is how I respond to people where I'm like, if you want me to handle this task and fulfill it properly, then I can't, like, these other tasks will need to be reprioritized because I can't put everything first. And so I'm always like, would you rather me deprioritize this and not get this done today? Or would you rather, shift some stuff around? And
Right.
that usually results in I'll get somebody else to do it. And the first time I did it to my manager, I was like, oh, like it was, I was working from home. I was like, she finna fire me. But she's like, oh no, like focus on like whatever you're focusing on. Because sometimes your boundaries, they're a big deal to you, but like sometimes like people who have
People.
boundaries respect boundaries.
Right.
And so it's not like well, you should do this anyways, because that's what I expect you to do. It's like, oh no, yeah, do what you need to do. We'll circle back. I'll, find another solution. But just that in itself has been so helpful because there would be times where I would have like 12 projects on my plate that I need to finish by the end of the week. And for context, like I only do like 4 or 5.
Mm.
And that is overwhelming.
Oh yeah,
Can be
I'm sure it
overwhelming.
can be.
Yeah.
That's tough. It's funny we both brought up work, and I kind of jumping off subject, but we talked about the job interview I had last week or
Yes.
a couple weeks ago.
Breaking news.
Breaking
Not so
news.
breaking. We have breaking news.
Breaking
What
news.
We have correspondent Benjamin Nelson on the scene in Evansville. Benjamin, what do you have for us today?
Live from Evansville. It's raining
Live
outside.
on location.
The wind is blowing. But no, I had that
I'm
job
standing
interview.
here in the
Jim Cantori.
rain.
But no, I had the job interview. The job interview went well. Hey, I knocked it out the park according to the people who sat in on it.
I know
Yeah.
Barry Bonds.
Yeah. So and then they called me a few days later and formally offered me the job, and as to be expected, there was going to be a little bit of a pay cut involved, and I was willing to forego that because there was talk of stock options, being able to grow with the company. So I wasn't really too concerned about the little bit of pay cut. My As I sat and pondered on the job, um, my retirement and my health insurance down the line, came into play because as I stand now working out of my local, I'm a union man. IBEW, I told y'all, local 702. Um, After so many years of service, I qualify for post retirement insurance at 100% for the rest of my life. I mean, people, you just don't get that anywhere at any job. So that was huge. I have a pension plan going on where a nice chunk of every dollar I make goes into my pension, and that was something to take into consideration. I mean, they had a 401k with a 6% match, but that's all. Some of that is out of pocket, and currently none of what I paid into my pension is out of pocket. So, those things. I'm getting older. I'm not getting younger. Those things were very, very important. And at the end of the day, to make a long story short, they wouldn't really want to work with me, even though I had it on from a good source that they could if they wanted to, but they chose not to. And I just told them, respectfully, I appreciate the opportunity, but I passed up on it. They came back with a bump up in the pay and a signing bonus, but it wasn't enough to overcome that. So, at the end of the day, I said the process was a great experience because, like I say, I hadn't done an interview for quite some time, especially for a job, not the way we work. But yeah, I turned it down with maybe something else to come up in the future, and maybe I'll retire as a lineman. Who knows? I enjoy being a lineman. I ain't gonna sit here and tell you I love it, but I do enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot.
It pays the bills.
It
And
pays the
keeps
bill.
you in
Keeps me
healthy.
active. Keeps me
Yes.
moving. Keeps me
Yes.
alert. Keeps
You
those.
gotta keep up with the youth because you
Yeah. No, I ain't got to keep up with their asses.
you just tell them, you say, go on, do your business.
Show them a few times and turn them loose.
So
No.
how like, I know what we talked about behind the scenes, but how tough was that for you? Like, was a tough conversation with yourself? Was that back and forth? I want this job. I'm gonna take a salary cut. And then I was kind of like the tunnel vision, and then realizing, oh, long term, this might not be the best solution. So how was dealing with that? Because like in the last episode, you definitely had a lot of passion for the opportunity. And when we talked, like the way you called me, like you had just let me down, and I'm like, nah, man, you do what you gotta do. But yeah, how was that internal tough conversation? Like, man, which direction should I go?
Hey, man, it was tough. Like, for me, because I try to be considerate. Somebody offer you a position making six figures, to the average person, you don't jump on that shit. Like, you gonna pay me $100,000. It's like, so I'm like, yeah, I was like, okay, that's cool. But so I didn't have all the answers. And I didn't pretend to have all the answers. I had a couple conversations with a couple coworkers. I had a conversation with my GF, and I ended up calling my business manager at my local to get his idea, because he negotiates contracts for our local. So who better to call and with this situation? And he put some shit on my head, which I kind of knew, but to hear it from him and the way he put it, and it was after I talked to him, I was like, this is why I called you, because I don't have the answers, and I don't have the references to put with the answers that you provide. So I appreciate you taking my call.
Real quick, that says a lot about you, humility wise, because some people would absolutely be like, I'm not calling them. Like, I don't need to know what they're talking about. I know all the answers. I'm gonna take the job offer because I know what's best for me.
Yeah.
But to put your pride aside and be like, I am a little vulnerable right now. I need a little assistance.
Yeah.
Shut up. I need a sound for like growth. I need like a light bulb ding. Every time you say something, I'm gonna say ding.
But yeah, his insight, and I'm gonna tell you, I know you guys have heard his name mentioned several times. Jamel, the boy, the man is a godsend. Has been a godsend for me, from working with him for the last couple years to we tied together at the hip right now. Like, he has done some amazing things. I watch him work. Now, he is a guy that loves line work. He loves it. He tells me all the time. He said, man, I dream about this shit in my sleep. I'm like, you a bad motherfucker. I'll be dreaming
You
about a
got
lot of stuff, but
you.
building
I be
power
dreaming
lines
about a
ain't one
beach.
of them.
You dreaming about a power line.
But that's my dude, man. Like he is and he just they say, I've heard people describe being a professional at something is taking something that's extremely hard to do and making it look easy to the average person. And when I tell you this man, to watch him go study something and then come back with a plan, and he puts it on me to make sure that the plan is executed the way we want it to be executed. When I tell you this shit flow like a river sometimes.
When is his
God.
birthday? Is it
I
in
think it's in
September?
July. I think it's in July.
Let me find out Jamila Virgo. Because
No, I think it's in
that sounds
July.
very much like what you just said, how he takes it, plans it out, and brings it back to put it on you and make sure you follow through. That's literally how my mind works.
Oh yeah.
And at work, people be like, my manager, she is amazed. Literally, she pulled for event we had a few months ago, biggest sales event of our year for our department, our area, our region. She pulled me in because she had all these different dots that needed to be connected, and could not figure out how to connect them. So she pulls me in and she's like, Kiara, I need your help. Like, she was like, you're a beast at the project management, so please come help me. Me thinking to myself, I am. So I go downstairs. She tells me what she needs. And I'm like, okay, so in order to get this, we need to map out these steps. In order for this to happen, we need this to happen. And I end up coming up with a whole workflow before the end of the day, write it on the board, take a picture, I go set it up, and then I get on the call with all the stakeholders the next day, and I'm like, all right. So it was so crazy because to me it came so naturally. Like there was no issue. And to explain it came easily. And that was the first time I'd ever been in one of those meetings, and like I'm speaking to the directors and stuff, and I'm like, this is what I need from you guys to ensure that this all goes smoothly so we can have a successful event. And everybody followed my thing, and it worked so well.
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
that was amazing. For one, that my manager saw that in me, and for two, that I was able to, because I'm like, I do that in my sleep. Like I love solving puzzles and stuff. Like that's just a big puzzle
That's
to me.
it. That's
But
it.
I hate this. I didn't mean to sidetrack you, but
That's
when you
okay.
said that,
No.
I was like, that's me. But what was you said,
But
Jamel?
I can attest to being that person. I can attest to being your manager. Watching you work, I can see that. Like with him, it's watching him put the plan together, come to me and to the crew and be like, this is what we're gonna do. If anybody, and he'll leave the floor open. He'll say, hey, this is what I see. He said, but if you guys, see something different, think we ought to do something different, I'm all for it. And most of the time, I'll be like, shit, bro, I see that shit. Because when my thing is, I don't necessarily put it together the way he might, but when he bring it back and he lay it out to me and I see it, that's it, bro. You can go sit in the truck now. Go on, sit in the
That's
truck.
how you know it's a good plan.
Your job is done. I got this. And then I'm the people person on the crew. Like, there's a challenge. It's a challenge for him sometimes to deal with certain people, that come on and off the job, because there's a lot of switching parts. Because linemen, they'll drag up on your ass. They'll leave a job in the middle of a wire pull, which is fucked up. But we've had that done to us, and you have to adjust on the fly. So he's not the best when it comes to dealing with people, but that's like my wheelhouse. I can deal with the most difficult person and get them to see things the way we see it, and they might not want to, but once we get in that air, this is the way this shit gonna go down. And if you don't like it, you can get the fuck on down the road. But
kick rocks,
we don't like to
don't
be
let
that
the
way.
toe hit you.
We like to have a good time on the crew. But all that to say, I talked to him about, the opportunity, the business manager and all that. And just, it was just in my best interest to continue doing what I'm doing as a lineman and not a safety specialist. Maybe in another 5 or 6 years, I can reapply.
Hey, you
Yeah.
might. Well, thank you for that, Benjamin correspondent. You stay safe out there in Evansville.
Yeah. Back to you in the studio.
Back to me in the studio. Yeah, no, that was really, it was just really cool to see you kind of maneuvering in that space, because like I said, it felt kind of like I was the parent in the situation. Like,
Mhm.
you had called me, we talked about your resume, you had called me, we talked about the salary, because you were not feeling it at first. You was like, man, that ain't, I make way more than that. And I'm like, Daddy, you gotta pull it back. Like, you get to travel, you get paid holidays. Like, sometimes a pay cut is okay. It's not like you hurting for, that salary. And so it was just really cool to see you navigate that space. And that was one thing that kind of, it made me feel, it was a weird feeling when you called me to tell me that you wasn't probably gonna take the job. It's just kind of how you sounded. Like, you sound like a kid in trouble. He's like,
I did.
hey.
I felt like a kid. I'm like, dang, she done helped me with this. Now I'm gonna call her
You
and tell
say,
her.
hey, I'm not taking a job. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, especially after you broke it down, because I saw salary cut, PTO. I'm like, okay, there's the benefits, but I'm not seeing the dissection of the long term health benefits and the 401k stuff. So when you said that, I'm thinking, I always think long term. So when you said that, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you do? Like, that's awesome. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. I'm
Hey,
100% with you.
the way I approach life, the process was fun to go through. Like the interview and talking to him, the back and forth with the negotiation. It was a little nerve wracking, but it was fun to do. I just feel like
Tough
it's.
conversations.
I
Ding.
feel like I feel like it's preparing me for something bigger and better down the line. So hey, the
Maybe we might
universe.
we might have we might have a contract coming up for the podcast. You might need to negotiate for
Hey,
us.
I guess been a little birdie in my ear that's been giving me some confidence lately, and she tells me that she said you fit to be a CEO of somewhere of a business, not just a worker. And that does something for a guy's ego, for his self esteem when you have others pouring into you like that. Because I've
Hey, well, you
and didn't
have been a
always get
CEO
that.
before.
I have. Uh, but yeah, man, it's just some exciting stuff going on. That like everything in my life right now, pretty much has been pretty exciting. That process was cool. Doing this podcast, we kind of talked about it earlier. I look forward to recording this thing. And I was watching the last episode earlier today, and it's funny that I'm watching something and laughing. I was cracking up at that episode. Like it was like, this is crazy. Like me and my daughter are having a good time doing something
Like,
that
we
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 enjoy.
funny.
I don't know if we funny, but we sure enough be laughing at each other.
Hey, I was having a talk with Brittany today. I said, I make content for myself. If you happen to like it, you could come on. But if you don't let the dough hit you with a good Lord split you, because I'm a laugh. Because I listen to the podcast on my drive to work. I was cracking up. I was like, man, we are funny. Like,
Hey,
it is not like corny funny. I mean, of course it is corny funny because me, but it's like, this isn't cringe funny. Like, this is, my coworker Sydney, she sit next to me. She like tapped me on the shoulder. She was like, "I'm listening right now," and so she was pausing to like laugh. And I'm like, that's so cool to see. It's
yeah.
just,
Other
it's
people like I got a text message from a I got a text. I don't like talked to you earlier about it. I got a text message from an 815 number today. And I was thinking to myself, I don't know, that number don't even, that area code didn't even look familiar. But come to find out, it was somebody I went to college with. Went to UT, shout out to UT Martin. Went to UT Martin with, and she had watched the episode, and she was like, "Man," she said, "I love what you and your daughter are doing." She's like, "Your energy reminds her of her oldest daughter." And then she shouted me out for talking about the class of '93 and how we are like the best class to ever graduate from anything. Like, just good
class of
stuff.
2020 would like a word, but I'm gonna let you
Yeah, we
have
can
that.
have a word after the fact, but facts is facts. We only speak facts on this show.
Right.
I told you
Say
we like the
so.
beehive. We'll come for you now. Don't get us
You're
stirred
right.
up.
Let me Let me shut
You
up.
better back up.
Let's shout out to 93. Shout out to
Again.
93. Catch me off this podcast. I'm gonna say something else. No, I mean that's great to transition because we asked for some reviews. We asked for people to let us know how they feeling about the podcast, and we definitely have some responses that I would
You
love
gonna
to
read a
share.
couple of them?
Yeah, do you have any that you want to read off?
No,
Because
I
this
figured
one
you.
came to my phone. The ones, so like we talked about this kind of off screen, but it's one thing to make something that your family enjoys or that you and the person you're creating with enjoys, but it's another thing for people that you do not know or do not communicate with. You don't expect them to even interact with your content,
Right.
for them to come tell you how great your content is. And I was like, that's what success feels like with this podcast. Like, I was like, we can post stuff all day, all the family can react, but the real oh my god, we did it moment
When you
is
see those
people.
names that you don't recognize, like in the likes or in the comments, you just be like, "Who the hell is that?" Like,
I'm like, who is this?
right?
Who is this? Or
Yeah.
like, or somebody you went to school with that you don't really talk to. You like, man, you've been watching. That's so cool. Like,
Right. Because Tanya,
it's
the girl from Chicago, the 815 number, she was from Chicago. I ain't talked to Tanya in years. Like, shout out to Tanya. Hey, Tanya.
hey
Tanya,
Tanya.
I mean, hit me out the blue. Like, I hadn't talked to her in quite some time. And she was like, she just enjoyed it. Like, and then as a friend from California that did I think she commented on YouTube or something or on
Oh
Instagram.
yeah.
Yeah,
The one I read you yesterday.
yeah. So I mean, hey, man, it's a pretty amazing.
Man, look, so I got this one pulled up. This was a highlight to my day too. It's from Livy. Do you know who that when I sent you a screenshot, do you know who Livy is? Miss
Mm-mm.
Miller, Katie Miller? That's her sister.
Oh, okay. I didn't know she had a sister. Okay,
Yeah, she
go
got a younger
ahead.
sister.
I didn't know that.
So she said, "You and your dad's podcast has become something I look forward to listening to. I've yet to listen to an episode where I haven't stopped and been given a thought that applies to my life. I love it. It's like sitting around the kitchen table listening to family talk about life, and when it's over, you have that fuzzy feeling. It's like Sunday dinner when all the food is over and you're just sitting around hanging out." That was, I was like,
That's
that's
cool.
spot on. Like,
Right.
that's literally what my notes say. Is like we just sitting at the table chatting. Like this is what our phone calls be like. So I was like, it's so cool to. I was literally just. I had to double take because it was really early in the morning, which means that she was like waiting for the podcast to drop, and for her
Right.
to text me that. I mean, to send me that, I was like, oh my gosh, that is awesome. I
Yeah.
was like, well, look, we finna record another one tonight. So I'm just, and then we have an actual one from the podcast. We have a new review. Still didn't get a chance to find out who that last review was. But we do have a review. Sorry, y'all. I gotta pull up the. All right. So we have a review from K13ML that says, a podcast everyone needed. 5 stars, by the way. This podcast is what everyone needed. The vulnerability between a father and child, especially a daughter, shared in this podcast is what is needed. This podcast will navigate a lot of people towards healing and be an example for other parent and child relationships.
Hey, that's a wonderful thing.
Man, I get butterflies. Cause I'm like, we really was just like, hey man, we should start a podcast. And here we are.
We
And
doing it.
getting good feedback on it. Getting
Hey,
feedback.
we are in the arena. We are daring greatly.
Hey, and that promo clip, I posted that you talking about Darren Greatly,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like it's not super viral, but like on Facebook, it's viral. Like people are commenting like, "Oh my god, I just ordered this book based off what you said." And I'm forgetting that I even posted the reel on Facebook. I'm like, who is this? Why is people following me? And it's
Yeah.
because of the reel. That reel has almost like 2,000 views, which
Oh
to
wow.
me is freaking huge.
Hey.
And I'm just like, Wow.
But it's a
It's amazing.
that's an amazing book. Like, I mean, that book has so much good information in it. I mean, I know we talked about it before, but
It
it's just
reiterated.
it's a good book for anybody can pick that book up and learn some valuable stuff. I love the part one of the parts she said like she does a lot of things excuse me, as far as like talks. She did a TED talk before, and she said, you know, if you're not in the arena, she's not interested in what you think about her work. She said, but if you are in the arena, meaning the arena of life, if you're out there trying to move, if you're out there doing something, then she can take what you have, your like if you got a critique about what she's doing, she will might entertain what you're saying. But if you're just like posting an anonymous uh review or a critique of her work, and I don't have no time for that. I only want to deal with people who are in the arena, who are making things happen, who are putting themselves out there, trying to move in this
Yeah.
thing called life. I thought that was pretty
Right.
cool.
Yeah, and that it's like the people who are giving me the feedback want to give me feedback so that I can be better and not so they can feel like they sunned me or like,
Right.
oh, I really
I checked her.
brought her down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really brought her back to reality. It's like, what?
Get a
What?
life.
Go find you some business and stay out of mine. I got another review.
Okay.
You can this is the one you mentioned from the YouTube video from Lisa. It says, watching the dad-daughter bond between you two is refreshing. It reminds me of my daughter and her late dad's relationship, something I'll appreciate forever. She still honors him even in passing. I hope you both continue this platform for the world to witness. BJ, the respect and love you have for your daughter as a young woman, and Kiara, the respect you have for everything you've learned and cherished from your dad. Blessings to you both.
Ah, that's cool.
That one was a cool one because I'm like, it's just reaffirming. I won't go into, another soapbox, but it's super reaffirming.
Y'all hear us out there. Don't be scared to engage us. We love it. Even if it's something challenging. If it's a tough conversation, let's have it. We encourage it. It'll make you better as a person. Make us better too. Iron sharpens iron. Let's get it.
Yes, indeed. Did you have any that you wanted to read off?
No, I paraphrased that one from Miss Forrest.
All right. Well, wait. Okay. Yeah. So that's the end of this episode, guys.
Is it the
what?
end? Did we didn't do a Black History moment? It's still February.
It is. It is indeed.
Look at you.
Let's wait. Because let's backtrack. Because I did not realize in the last episode that I dropped a Black History fact on you before we even started talking about it. When I was talking about the loud love,
the loud love.
I was like, whoa, I should have caught that, but I was so in the moment talking about it.
That was huge. I mean, that was big, especially for all the Greek people, the people who are in Greek organizations. I'm sure they were like, oh, that's dope as hell. Like, that's cool.
If they didn't already know. When I found out, I was like, huh. Oh. Is that so? What's your Black History fact? I feel like I had one.
It ain't necessarily. It's just an event.
Talk about yeah.
It's just what happened after the last.
How about them Chiefs?
Yeah, the last episode up to now, like the Super Bowl. It was like the first time in history that two Black quarterbacks faced off in the Super Bowl. And just speaking, that was amazing for just history itself. But when the game itself,
man,
I've been watching football for a long time, and that probably was the best Super Bowl game that I've ever seen, because that was an awesome game.
As someone who just started kind of like actually taking football serious and learning about it and trying to actually understand it, for one, it was really cool to see the two Black quarterbacks because in history, like most quarterbacks are not Black, and most people who get that quarterback opportunity are like white kids. And so for one, that was really cool to see. And for two, now I've watched a lot of Super Bowl games because I like to see the commercials
The
and I like to
commercials
eat.
sucked this Super Bowl. Somebody need to. Yeah, they sucked.
I had a few. I had like two favorites though. But that game, that was a game that I did not want to leave my seat for. Like I
Right,
had to pee at
Patrick.
one point, and I was like, "Ooh, I hope they call a timeout soon. 'Cause I gotta go pee." And it's like just when you thought, the Chiefs would mess up a play, and you'd be like, "Dang, there go the game," and then the Eagles would do something. You're like, "Oh, wait, no, it's not the end." And then Pat Mahomes, his ankle was messed up, and then he did his thing. That man is
Patrick, my homeboy. Patrick
and
Mahomes.
Jalen Hurts did a great job too.
Oh yeah.
I do not want to take anything away from what he did.
He had one of the highest quarterback ratings of all time. Like his game was, that fumble, it was the only blemish to his performance. And Patrick Mahomes, I don't know if when they messed up his ankle and went to halftime,
they gave him some horse tranquilizers.
If they went there and gave that man some more go-go juice or what? I don't know. My nephew Ray, shout out to Ray. Ray said it was scripted. He said, "Oh, this ain't." He said, "That's scripted." I said, "I don't know." I said, "If it is, that man need an Oscar." He did the damn thing. He came out there, and that was just an amazing game. I used to last year. Let's see, up until March of last year, and then the whole 2021. The contractor I worked for was based out of Kansas City, and my boss at the time. No, it was Black and McDonald. Black and Mac, what we call him. My boss.
Black and Mac.
Yeah, Black and Mac.
That's a cool name.
They was a good contractor to work for. But he was a huge Chiefs fan. So I texted him after they won. I was like, "How about them Chiefs?" He's like, "Hell yeah."
Hey man, CJ was salty because, like I said, start understanding football. And what I really like about the Chiefs, like, people be like, "Oh, you're a bandwagon fan or whatever," which I don't care. But what I really like is that that team helped me understand football, because when they play, and like they were doing stuff where I would ask CJ like, "Okay, so they gonna run this route, right? Because he moved here. Like they did so much that I was able to grasp the concept of football, and I literally have been rooting for them since preseason, basically.
Yeah,
I've been like, I really like watching the Chiefs play, and
they're fun to watch.
Everybody was like, we said no, nobody said the Chiefs was going to the Super Bowl. I was like, I said it. I should have bet money on it because I said it.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that because traditionally I'm a Cowboys fan. I don't like to say that out loud because it's a love-hate relationship that a lot of people don't understand. Like I can't stand
with any
them.
team. I'm sure your son-in-law understands.
I cannot stand them, but that's my team. I don't like the owner. I don't like the coach. I don't like the quarterback. But yet that's my team.
You don't like that?
Hell no. No, I don't. He's not that guy. Like he's a good quarterback.
You're not that guy.
But he's not that guy that's going to put the team on his back on a bum ankle and lead them to a Super Bowl victory. He's just not that guy. He's a good quarterback, but he's not that guy. He's not a. But my point is, traditionally I'm a Cowboys fan, but my friend, she picked the Chiefs as our team, and lo and behold, they freaking won the damn Super Bowl. And
man, that game was so good. Like I could go watch that game again and be happy. It was high scoring. It was close.
Yeah.
I love seeing Travis and his brother Jason play.
Yeah, that was cool too.
That was cool. So awesome, especially because I've been watching their podcast, and you can really see how much they love each other, especially because Jason's the big brother. And so you could just see how much Travis looks up to Jason. And he's like, if you wouldn't have started playing football, I wouldn't have played football. And so he was like, just to be able to share that moment with you, even though he's on offense, Jason, so he's not getting the recognition that a lot of players get because he's just You
Yeah,
know, he's just down there,
he
but
was a lineman, right?
e
Ain't he
every
on the line?
freaking play,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the one they hike the ball and they dive.
Yeah, when they doing the quarterback sneak.
Yeah, bro, every freaking play, that man was sacrificing his spine. He went head first. I was like, "Ooh, I hope he don't hurt himself." But it was so cool. Him doing that was allowing Jalen Hurts to get a lot done, and it was just like. And then when he scored that one touchdown a few games ago, it was just so funny. He was like, I love seeing non-problematic white men be happy. They just be making my day when they mind their own business and they just.
That's funny you say that because I mean we can go off. I could go off on another tangent on that alone because a lot of the guys that I work with are like that. Like they just some country boys. They just want to. They having fun out here doing this job, playing in the mud and just. I mean, you should see some of them. I work with two of them, the Bosaw brothers, Kyler and Grant. I'm telling you, these boys are cut from a different cloth, but they are fun to work around and be around. They crack me up, and they just enjoying it, enjoying life, and just good-hearted people. Just amazing. That's another thing about this job. I went off somewhere else.
Hey, it's all good.
You meet people who
come from
are
different
just
walks
people.
of life. Yeah.
Different walks of life, but when you start working with them and they look at you and you look at them and you know that, hey man, today my life is in your hands just like yours is in mine. And it's an unspoken thing. And I've made many of friendships out here as a lineman with my buddy Jason Hall. Bam, shout out to Bam.
Bam, shout out Bam.
Bam.
Bam been
Austin
around
Lewis.
for a minute. Austin,
I haven't seen Austin in a while.
Austin better watch himself because he be on Facebook. He be getting me. I'll be like, "Ooh, Austin, you better hope I don't ever see you in person because I got some words for you." Nah, he cool, but he opens you up for discussion.
It's a different viewpoint. Like he's engaged me on Facebook, but he's also when I see him, it's all love. It's like he said, "Man, I never thought about it." From your perspective, I've never had to, and
look
that's
at you having them tough conversations.
That's something that I appreciate about a lot of my friendships and associations with people of that don't look like me. Like I try not to get too wrapped up in the color thing because we all, at the end of the day, we all want the same things for our families. We just want to take care of our families, make sure that they got what they need to survive, and to give them the best life possible. That's it, And it's some assholes out there on both sides of the color spectrum, on all sides of the color spectrum.
Absolutely.
But I think that's more of a rarity than it is of the norm. But, I don't even know where I was going. I just got
media, based on like what the media highlights, it's really easy to get sucked into that belief that like all these people are bad. And that's, well, we're gonna have to do another. I'm gonna write that down for another episode.
Yeah, because we're
gonna have to talk about that.
Shoot,
you need to open a whole nother sack of ideas.
I know, right?
That's why I love this podcast.
Yeah.
So, what did you have outside of that Black History fact? You have any one?
No, I just wanted to touch on that one.
Or Black History moment.
I mean, we can do, if you want, we can do a whole episode on little known Black History facts. I just have to do some research.
We're gonna put a pin in it for next year.
We might shock some cocks with that one. I'm saying there's a lot of people
sayings.
They don't. I got that one courtesy of Pud Jones. I love when he say that.
Shout out to Pud Jones. Shock some cocks. I'm gonna say that and get sent to HR. I gotta watch myself.
I can say it at work because I can say it at my job. Yeah, you can say it.
Y'all ain't got no HR department.
Might get your cock shocked at my job, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, one more Black History moment before we wrap up. Viola Davis
Woman King
became an EGOT.
She
got her Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony. She is up there with oh my gosh, Whoopi Goldberg. It's not many Black women who have EGOTs, but she just got hers during February. I love history being made during Black History Month.
Hey, that's an amazing woman.
Ain't she?
She is amazing.
Except what she did in that Michelle Obama movie. She need to be whooped for that. But other than that,
I ain't seen it. I might have to watch it.
You don't want to see it. She do this face. She's Michelle Obama, so she does this. It's ugly. It's ugly. It's not a Michelle Obama face. She did it bad, but it's okay because she got her EGOT. So what I say don't matter because she knows she doing. But yeah, shout out to Viola Davis. Love everything you do except for that movie.
Michael Jordan had a birthday the other day. I think he turned 60 years old. His birthday is in February, if I'm not mistaken.
I ain't seen no. You don't know your man's birthday?
Since that's my guy. But I don't know.
February 17th, he did turn 60.
60 years old.
Michael. Oh, you excited for 60?
Who, me? Hell, I gotta get to 50 first. Why you trying to put me to 60? Unless Mari would say, Daddy, you knocking on 50's door. I am, but I ain't quite there yet.
Man, if that girl remind me that I'm finna be 30 one more time, that I'm gonna turn 30 soon, I'm gonna travel to Illinois and hit her upside her head.
She getting ready to start driving. I mean, she's driving now because she got a learner's permit.
Yeah, if you are in Southern Illinois, please.
Hey, my baby can drive now. She can drive.
I mean, she comes from a family of early drivers.
She drove herself home when I took her back when we went back to Murphy the other day. She drove down.
She drove from Ellen to Murphy?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Mari.
She be doing it.
I'm gonna need that license before we get in the car together.
Oh yeah, we definitely. She says she want a Kia Stinger. I said, shit, you better get a job.
You know how much Kia Stingers cost? Do you know how much Kia? That's the Mercedes of the Kia line.
Hey, I told her I'm going to go find
You better get a Chevy Cruze.
I told her I'm going to go find a Chevy S10 extended cab pickup 1995 model for I ain't going to do my baby like that. She going to have something. I ain't going to sit there and say it's going to be a Stinger, but she going to have something.
She gonna have something that she will cherish and love, just like I did Ruby.
Shout out to Ruby.
7 years till she gave up on. Well, she didn't give up.
She didn't give up on you.
She was acting up.
You put her out to rest.
Yeah, gave her to somebody else. She
served her time though. She served her time.
From the time I got my license up until 23. Yep.
Yeah, she was.
Shout out to Ruby.
It was a good car.
Okay, so we just talking now. So that wraps up this third episode of the Daddy Daughter Dishes podcast. If you guys enjoyed it, you know what we're asking for. Go ahead and give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you listen and enjoy this podcast at. If you are watching on video, hello. Like this video, let us know in the comments that you made it to the end and you liked the episode, or maybe you didn't like the episode. Let us know something. Talk to us. We talk back.
That's right. We talk back.
And so, back to the reviews. If you do leave a review, like if you hit the 5 stars, leave a typed review too so we can read it on the show. Or you can email us, daddydaughterDishes@gmail.com, and email us whatever you want to say. Get in the mailbag and we will read your email at the end of an episode, so you'll get a cool shout out. So whether you want to honor someone that you have a cool relationship with, or share a story, maybe you and your dad, or you and your daughter, or you and your son, or you and your mom have experience that you think will fit this wide scope of what we cover in this podcast, we would be happy to read that and experience that with you. So, Daddy, that being said,
what's up?
You know what I have for you?
You got a dad joke.
I do.
I'm ready.
I do have a dad joke. All right. So, how much does a roof cost?
How much does a roof cost?
Nothing. It's on the house.
That was easy.